So hi everyone, welcome to Architecture in the Den with me, Lisa Raynes, founder of Pride Road, the architectural practice franchise. And we are delighted to welcome Flora today. And we're going to be talking about the value of an architect. So Flora, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, Lisa, well, first of all, thank you very much for having me here on your exciting channel. So I'm Flora Samuel. I'm Professor of Architecture in the Built Environment at the University of Reading. And I was the first RIBA Vice President for Innovation and Research. And I wrote a book called Why Architects Matter. And I'm really interested in how architects demonstrate their value, how they get their message across, and how we can together improve the quality of the built environment.
Thank you very much. So what is, I think our opening question is, what is the value of an architect in the domestic setting?
Yeah, well, I think well, it's interesting because I did a research project on why people didn't employ architects to do their house extensions and things like that. And through seeing the kind of things that they got, you've started seeing what a lot of value architects actually add in terms of, not least, just the use of space. And what I think is the real value of architects are in the domestic setting is really about getting under the skin of what clients want, people's lifestyles, the way that their household operates, their family, and sometimes even saying, well, actually, you don't need a new building, or actually maybe you just need to move some stuff around. So I think that architects are I think going forward, as a lot more of the architectural process is going to be automated, actually, and delivered by apps and stuff. I think what's going to be left behind is this experience of working with very capable, interesting, sensitive individuals who have a real ability to kind of get under the skin of what you need with space. So I think domestic architecture, in a way, has this kind of almost like therapeutic. It's almost like offering a service or a transformation when it's done well. And as well, of course, architects are the most highly trained people in sustainability and delivering good value spaces. So there's a lot of value to be offered in that side of things. So it's multiple, really. I think architects can save you money. I think they can give you a good time, have fun. It can be a social thing, and they can, and it's good for the environment as well. I mean, what I found a lot with the people I did the research project on is that people would work with. They thought architects cost a bomb, and they would just do anything rather than work with an architect. They worked with a motorway bridge engineer in one case, designing their house, and all that happened was a kind of catastrophe. So yeah, I think architects can add so much, but unfortunately programs like Grand Designs don't always make that very clear.
Yeah, I find that quite a lot, and one thing that we do at Pride Road is I actually believe it's immoral to put people in negative equity. So one of the first questions that we ask is, what's the value of your house? How much did you pay for the house? What's the current value of the house? What's your budget? And if someone wants to spend £100,000 on the house and they're only going to realise, a 50,000 increase, I'm like, don't do it. Unless people have got money to throw away. Which kind of the sector of the market that I'm in, which is kind of like the just normal homeowners, their house is their principal investment.
And
I think you're gambling away people's futures and kids' futures if you overspend.
Absolutely. So I had a student doing a dissertation recently on minimalism, this whole Marie Kondo decluttering, getting rid of stuff. And she was sort of arguing that the logical conclusion from this really should be that architects should be encouraging people to build less, and actually to take on board more sort of decluttered and minimal lifestyles. But the funny thing was, when she interviewed a bunch of domestic architects, they were all just trying to get people to build as big as possible, because they obviously had their fee in mind or something. But there was never
Yeah.
any question of talking about actually maybe the decent thing is to do less.
Yeah, I'll turn projects down.
Mm.
I'll tell people it's not worth doing. And I suppose the way that we work with our sort of concept design workshop, it's a really low cost investment. Is £300 plus that. And I think that's pretty disposable in, when you're looking at the cost of a project.
Yeah.
I think someone can afford to spend £300 to work out whether they're going to make this huge life decision or not.
Yeah, well, it comes back to this thing like, why will people spend so much on their gadgets and gizmos and so little on their homes? And also be prepared for their houses to be so primitive compared to their homes. Yeah, it's a really interesting question.
Oh, so we've had a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Flora. I'm a student at Northumbria, and I'm currently writing a dissertation on architecture and social value. Your book has been invaluable. What ways do you think architects can deliver social value in projects not local to their business?
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because one of the big deals of social value is being local and using local products and local services and local materials. So yeah, we spent a lot of time trying to define what social value of architecture is, and you can look at the social value toolkit on the RIBA website. And we argue that social value design is around how your design can help people to connect with each other. You can look out the window and see your neighbor across the way. You can wave. You can sit on your doorstep and let your kid play out. So many things about connecting people. Architecture can add social value in offering exercise opportunities, place green space, active lifestyles. Even just going upstairs sometimes is a good thing. It can offer places for old people to trundle out to do a bit of gardening, whatever. I mean, architecture can do those things. Positive emotions, connect people with nature. Everyone knows how much nature and greenery cheer the spirit, sunlight, all these sorts of things. So they're health and well-being issues. And then there's other ones around participation, rolling your sleeves up and being part of the design process. You learn so much. You develop your own sense of identity, who you are, where you want to go. I think there's a lot in that. And then there's other dimension. There's the Quality of Life Foundation is just about to publish a really amazing framework for social value, and working with Urbed. And what I love, one particular dimension in there is wonder. That architecture can actually, enable you to connect with the wonder of the world, and I think that's beautiful.
That's lovely. I'm just kind of like, how can we bring that into the domestic setting?
You can do well. You do that. I mean, I did a lot of thinking about that when I used to write a lot about Le Corbusier, and it's things like drawing attention to ritual moments. Like water running and bathing and fireplaces, and I think there's sort of things around rituals and the elements and stuff like that you can bring in, which kind of connect you back to your primitive original self. That would be my theory anyway.
I think one battle I keep on having with clients at the moment is I kind of design a beautiful space, and then they want to put their sink under the window facing out their back garden. Now that's fine if you stood at the sink facing out the back garden, but if you're anywhere else in the space or anywhere else in the room, it blocks the view.
Yeah.
It blocks the view of the garden. It blocks the view of you keeping an eye on your kids in the garden as well.
Yeah.
So I spend most of my time trying to get people to drop their windowsills down.
Yeah, there's a peculiarly British thing about having your kitchen at the back, isn't it? When
Mm,
actually the nicest possible thing is having a dining table. And I know many houses nowadays don't have a dining table.
mm,
In fact, some shocking statistic about how many TV meals, dinners are eaten by the nation as a whole. But having a dining table somewhere where you can be near the window and looking out is got to be good for health, well-being, and everything.
mm. So we've had another question come in. So, hi Flora, this is from Anne. I'm an architect in an SME, often working with developers. We're currently grappling with how we can persuade our developer clients to buy into social value. We sometimes often find the wonder and value of projects are lost between the initial design and the costed design. Any thoughts on how we could work on this?
Oh, well, absolutely. That's such a familiar story. And I think for me, in my research, it all comes back down to something way up the food chain that we have nothing to do with, which is the value of land. The way land is costed and valued stinks. And it just leaves so little space when it comes down to the design of projects, because all of the sort of fat in the project has been used up on the land value. And then we discover that going down the further down the line, when it gets into you get your planning permission, and then well, certainly a lot of house builders, they just want to then value engineer every little bit of joy out the project that ever was, because that's not considered to be a material consideration in planning.
Mm,
So yeah, that is a real issue, and I suppose that's why I'm working in this sort of multi-pronged way. I'm trying to demonstrate the value of social value of architects, trying to monetize it using kits if you're asked to, and the social value toolkit will give the monetary value. But also we've got to look at how buildings are procured and make sure they take on board social value as well as environment and money. And we've got to look at land. The whole system's a bit awry. So
mm,
you have my sympathies, but I tell you that everything is changing so fast, because the way the government is shifted onto social value is really happening very fast. We've got the new Construction Innovation Hub tool, which is going to really raise the profile of social value. There's just a whole raft of things it's coming your way. So maybe it is difficult now, but don't despair, because I think that soon local authorities will only sell money to high social value developers who commit to social value. I think real transformation, especially after the pandemic, when all that happens is the risk of bad developments falls back on the local authority, doesn't it? So I think everything is changing. So fight the good fight, and keep gathering your evidence about why it's important.
mm.
Yeah, here's hoping. I agree. But I'm in a lot of these bodies around this zone, and I'm firmly convinced it's changing. In Wales, wherever there's the Future Generation Act, that it's already changing big time, because there's such a big commitment to the well-being of future generations, and the whole of planning law has cascaded in that direction.
So
And I think,
what's starting to change there?
well, a few years ago they brought in the Future Generations Act, which suggests that you've got to think of the future generations. At the moment, the way we build, we're
Mm,
like borrowing on the future, on our future, the lives and well-being of our kids, aren't we, and our descendants. But they've put a whole all of their entire planning policy now is around placemaking and future generations. Everything has to cascade in under that. Unfortunately, in Wales, they don't have much money to do any of their high aspirations, but you're starting to see it happening in developments. They just aren't allowed to build bad developments in bad places anymore. And actually, housing developments have to not just not do damage to the environment, they have to make the environment better. So it's quite a hopeful scene in Wales around this. I am hopeful. Here's hoping. I am hopeful.
So that sounds positive. And we've had a message from John. Most people think they're employing an architect when they use an architectural designer technician, technologist, consultant. Even the Hackett inquiry fell for that once or twice.
Oh,
That cannot be changed by architects on an individual basis. People are told that we cost a lot more by those who think they compete with us in order to get work. I even worked for one such person who charged more than an architect using a
exactly.
statement that architects charge more.
Well, that was the shocker. I mean, so I've discovered that plan drawers charge more than architects.
Mm.
It's insane. And I have got a little pet project of going around taking photographs of white vans saying architectural design on the side.
Oh, have you?
Yes. So I'm completely with you on that. And I think the RIBA could be doing more, to be honest. But it's the title is the only thing that's protected
I
and not
know.
the service. But it's up to us to make it absolutely shiningly obvious why our architects do it so much better.
I know. When I was on the council at the RIBA, the one motion that I managed to push forward was changing some of the RIBA's marketing spend. So it wasn't just going on kind of selling to professionals, but actually pitching the message to consumers and kind of lay people, clients. And we've seen a little bit of it come through, and I've saw the marketing campaigns, but it's so little.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I come back to this project I did on house extensions, and it was the damage done by Grand Designs. Nothing ever that comes through the good is ever attributed to the architect, but only the overspends and the tantrums and things, they all come back to the architect,
Yeah,
which is so unfair.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
and the other thing about Grand Designs is people think that they could build a house in an hour.
yes, indeed.
Well, the timelines don't translate
Yeah,
between TV and reality.
yeah, yeah.
People just don't notice that, oh, she's had another child in that process.
Yeah. I
It's
think a lot, I mean, a lot of being, well, I started off as a small sole practitioner, as a woman on my own with babies. And well, it was very hard then because a lot of people wanted to do stuff on the black market for a start. I hope things have got better now. But it's a very tough world. And I think I kept finding that you rock up to someone's house and try and be sensitive about what they wanted, and actually they wanted you to be kind of prima donna-ish and say, I have a vision of you in aluminium or something like that. You probably weren't getting their money's worth if you were just like sort of you know, just checking into how they were and how they might be in the future.
yeah.
So my hats off to you folk.
Well, I love it. I love working in the domestic sector. I've been doing it for 10 years. And it was, when I went into it, everyone warned me. They were like, don't do it. Domestic clients are really litigious. They're a pain. It always ends up being really emotive. It's rubbish. I mean, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the interaction between clients. There's a little bit of marriage counselling that goes on.
Yeah, sure.
But you did say something before about the interaction being fun and joyous, and it is. We have a laugh.
Yeah.
We get to know. I mean, I've got a kind of, we've got a system. I've got a very extensive briefing process that's there to ask those hard questions, like, do you own your house? And does anyone else live with you? And how do people live? Where do their parents live? Where do their family live? Are they going to come and stay with you for 6 months out of the year? And so all of a sudden what seemed a lavish design is very cramped because there's only one bathroom or something. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I really did on my research project about extensions. It was space. It was just, architects did that so much better. I mean, you just these ridiculous, oversized, ugly extensions you see on houses that the lateral light is destroyed, and actually anyone buying that house would have to knock down that hideous extension, all done by plan drawers, you know.
Mm, mm.
But that's not to say all architects are good either. Unfortunately.
So we've had another question in. Do you think there's a danger of over legislation in the public sector becoming an obstacle to actually achieving social value?
Well, put it this way, under legislation has been a complete disaster.
Mm.
You know, we took away the code for sustainable homes, for example.
Mm.
And therefore just then sustainability in architecture was kind of stopped. I don't know, look at countries which are really good. Look at Denmark, look at Holland, look at the Netherlands. They legislate their socks off. They're legislating how you use the 1 meter of space outside your front door, you know. So I don't buy it that legislation that, you know, that will somehow limit things. I think that legislation makes things clear and puts everybody on an even playing field. Yeah, because certainly deregulation really doesn't help at all.
Mm. Mm. So changing the subject back to, I mean, you said at the start that you thought that a lot of design or architecture is going to be done by apps. So
Yeah.
talk to that a bit.
Well, I do. I mean, certainly when I began as an architect, there was an awful lot of being an architect that's extremely tedious and repetitive, and can, you know, readily be done by apps, actually. And as we get into building information modeling and those sorts of things, I think a lot more buildings that will be designed almost automatically. But domestic projects won't, because they're always dealing with new and complicated and historic and conservation sort of issues. But I think a lot of generic architecture will be done by automatically. Lawyers are doing that. There's a whole host of services that are now being delivered by apps. But I think that will make space for a new kind of role, which is around, well, the people who write those apps for a start, people who write design codes. So say planning is going to go design code orientated. We've just got a big consultation out from the government on the new National Design Code for England. Say we go in that direction, you just have to produce buildings that fit into the code. You've got custom build, you've got IKEA flatback, you've got pack built housing. There's going to be a lot that's done in that way. But what will be left will be the experience of working with people, and the people will hold your hand through the process. And I do think that the architecture will change a lot, just inevitably. But I just can't see that domestic architecture, self-build, working with local materials, working with local craftspeople, that's ever going to change.
So talk me through, so what are these apps going to do?
Well, so they'll have codes put into them about the size of a bedroom, the amount of light, standard sort of things. I mean, if you think about the terrace house is a very standard thing, isn't it? It's extremely standard. So I think that when it comes down to like flat layouts and whatnot, that's pretty standard stuff, you know. There's an awful lot of code kind of books that tell you exactly how to do it. So I think that those sort of things and standard details, and this is probably at the lower end of things, but you know, we're in a situation where you can go out and buy a building, all the working drawings of a building on the web, on the internet. You know, just I want an opera house. You know, it could be in China, it could be Australia, it could be anywhere. You can buy buildings. You know, this is just an inevitability that there will be more automation for the more humdrum aspects of things. But as I say, I do believe that that will leave I mean, I don't know about you, but there's an awful lot of highly skilled people going into architecture ending up doing extremely banal jobs, you know, banal repetitive things, you know, the famous door schedule, whatever. You know, those things can be automated, and they will be.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I kind of with Pride Road, we're encouraging people to come and sort of buy into a franchise, and a lot of the time, kind of we hear from people who have given up working as an architect, and gone into work in a library or teaching assistant or something like that, just because they can't marry the job with life. Whereas actually at Pride Red, we've systemized a lot of the mundane stuff, but that's not drawing or detailing or anything like that. We've systemized the admin and the way that we deliver stuff to clients. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're kind of saving time, and
But
just
quite a lot of practices have standard details or they have a materials library, and they'll always do their wall details or this detail or that the same way. And those are little bits of automation that could be achieved.
So I think it is about being clever about how you work, but then leaving the time or your time to add that value. Spend your time wisely.
Yes, exactly. Spend
Because
your
your
time
time
wisely.
is valuable.
Exactly. And to be enjoyable, and so that
Yes.
the client feels they've really got, that they've been through something from which they've really learned.
Yes. And if you spend time doing the bits you enjoy, then it works for everyone. Oh, that sounds like a really nice place to end this chat.
Excellent, Lisa.
So thanks, Flora, for coming on. Lovely to have you. Lovely to talk to you again. So we'll be uploading this onto our YouTube channel, so Pride Road YouTube, and on as a podcast. So that's on Spotify or your speaker device. So you can hear from our other speakers in the series. Look for Architecture in the Den. Yeah, just watch out for more events. We're running this quite regularly, sort of every Monday. So subscribe, download, share. And if anyone's on Clubhouse, come and find me. Come and follow me, Lisa Raynes. I'm running 2 rooms. Mondays at 8 o'clock, I've got Constructive Together. So that's about construction networking, open to architects, students, people in the construction industry. And I've also got a second room, which is Tuesday at 10 o'clock, talking about the business of architecture. So more specific there. So thanks everyone for joining, and thanks Flora for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.